Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Ticket Training Tuesdays. So today we'll be talking again about categories, types, and tags. Quickly, our agenda. We'll go through just a couple things before we get into it. We'll head on over to a demo and hopefully have a few questions reserved at the end, or a few minutes at the end reserved for questions. Then Yep, if this is your first time joining us for Ticket Train Tuesdays, welcome. Thank you for joining. Basically, this is a weekly session we put on for you, our customers. We will kind of cover various ticket concepts, abilities, functionality, and kind of talk about those, go through a demonstration, answer questions, just anything we can do to help you be successful with Ticket in your organization. And for today, as I said, we'll be discussing categories, types, and tags. But first, quick introduction. I've not met you before. Hello, my name's Ben. I'm a consultant for the customer success team. I've been with Cyerson just a little over 2 years now. And I have to say, probably the best part of my job is definitely working with you, the customers, taking your requirements and seeing how we can use Ticket to best provide solutions and capabilities with not only Ticket but kind of automations in general. So really love doing that sort of thing, and I get to do a lot of it here at Cyerson, so that's great. Then one more slide. A lot of helpful links here. In fact, I'll put these in the chat for you now. Okay. First of which is the KB article for Ticket Training Tuesdays. If you go there, you can see all of our past sessions, even our previous season. It's all in one KB article. So if you missed something or you want to go back and review any of those previous sessions, be sure to check out that link there. Also want to highlight our help portal. If you need to submit a ticket to us, you can visit the help portal, tickets, issues, questions. Feel free to submit a ticket there, or if you want to visit the community or the knowledge base, we have links for that, and our email address. So just basically anything you might need, you can just shoot us an email and we'll take care of that. And oh, sorry, I didn't send the links there. They're in the chat. So okay. Well, with that being said, if there's any questions as I go, just feel free to come off and mute, raise your hand, or type your question in chat. We'll try to get to that. If I miss anything, I'm sure one of my colleagues will let me know. Thank you. And yeah, so we'll just get into it. So as I said before, we did a previous session last season on categories, types, and tags, where we just kind of went over kind of overview of how they work within Ticket, how you can use them, what they're all about. Today, we're going to try and dig a little deeper and maybe give some more examples of how you might use those, or some things to consider as you're configuring the different properties for your tickets, categories, types, and tags specifically. And just to start left from right, start with categories. I like to think of these as just high-level classifications of your tickets, something that no matter the type of ticket, something that could be classified just in general. So you think hardware, software, you might have various ticket types, and they could all maybe have a classification of hardware, software, just as an example. Was something that can be applied broadly to all your ticket types, put those into different buckets so that we can see them in the context of reporting or dashboards and things like that. Now we move over to types. You'll see out of the box what we provide. If you were just getting started with Ticket, we align with the ITEL definition of the common ticket types. So primarily incident, service request, and change requests. So those are the ones you get out of the box. You could expand that with, say, problem. And of course, you can add your own custom ticket types if needed. And as with categories and tickets as well, you can do subtypes, subcategories with a parent-child relationship. And so where I like to kind of split the difference between those two, if you're going to do, say, a subtype for a ticket type, say service request, for example, if something is specific to that work item type, it probably makes sense to make that a subtype and maybe not overlap as much with category. And I think the same could be said with tags as well. Tags are another attribute, but they're a little different in a couple of ways. Basically, that's just kind of some arbitrary labels, metadata we can attach to a ticket to do any number of things, kind of filling in the gaps. If you want to label a ticket, we could use tags. The difference with tags from categories and types, of course, being that well, it's not listed here, but you can actually delete tags where you can't delete a category or type. You can only archive those. But also, agents have the ability to add tags as well as the administrator. With that being said, it's probably best to kind of establish a best practice when working with tags. When is it appropriate to apply a tag to a ticket? When do you need to, or when do you create a new tag? And being mindful of the other properties of category and type as you do that. So I think the point I'm trying to make here with all three of these at the bottom where I say maybe try to avoid overlap by considering all your other ticket properties. For instance, you might be tempted to have like a service request hardware subtype or a tag for hardware, but you probably also have a category hardware as well, right? So if you needed to report on that, you already have that available by putting just a couple filters in. You could get that data back you need for all your ticket types, because you could combine that with the category hardware and you can get it that way. And then that kind of avoids confusion and overlap by not also having an incident hardware type or a tag for incident, because that could get kind of confusing maybe for your agents, anyone working the ticket, which one do I pick? So probably best to have kind of a conversation there, maybe just kind of establish your own conventions and processes when working for these, and probably only use them when they bring value and not get too carried away with all of these. It's really all I have for the slides before we go over into the demo. Were there any questions? I bring up my lab. Okay. Should be sharing my lab. Can everyone see that? Maybe a thumbs up. Look okay. Great. Appreciate it. Thank you. Just going to move around a little bit. Have a couple examples of how we might use some of these things within Tikit. And I would like to start, I think, with types. Look at type. You probably noticed I've added some additional subtypes for tickets. And what I was trying to highlight here was maybe some instances where it would make sense to differentiate between different ticket types that maybe not appropriate as a high-level classification. So just going down the list, maybe you have the concept of an internal incident versus an external incident, for example, or request. Maybe you have standard requests that someone could submit, and maybe there's some with a cost involved, and you want to see the difference between service requests paid versus what I call standard. Change, probably an easy one here if you're more along in your change management processes. You might choose to break these out into the ITIL defined change request types, being emergency, standard, and normal. And same with problem. Just came up with an example of maybe you want to track the types of tickets based on their impact to the organization. So you have maybe a localized problem, regional, or global. So like I said, just an example. You see that maybe these wouldn't be appropriate for other ticket types. That's why they're listed as a subtype here. Maybe a paid incident doesn't make sense. So as a category, but it would make sense here. So yeah, example of ways you can use subtypes for work on types. And of course, you could nest these further. You can add more or less, whatever you really need in your organization. So a couple common ways we might use types. I would think like reporting, visualizing groups of tickets in some way, whether that be through the portal here or external reporting, Power BI. One way I thought would be kind of obvious, maybe when you come to the main ticket view, you don't want to see all the tickets. You just want to see certain types of tickets. So you can see I've created a few custom views. So these are just broken into change, incident, and service requests. So if I were to click on any of these, I would just see that ticket type and all the subtypes included for that ticket type. And to set up these views is really easy. In fact, I think I missed problem. So we could easily create a new custom view, just call this problem, and then it's just as easy as setting the ticket type to problem. And if you wanted to include all the subtypes, select them all there, save. Yeah, and of course, I have no problems in my environment, but I think you get the idea. You would see all the problems there. Also, just
amazing. Can I call you? Good morning. Can I call you back?
Oh, sorry. I think. Oh, okay. All right, that was a question. I'm gonna stop sharing. I'm gonna quickly go to Power BI just so we can see what that might look like in a dashboard. This is the out-of-the-box Power BI template. I've not changed anything here, but just highlighting that you could bring these metrics into external reporting or Excel, wherever. You can see instead of just having those high-level ticket types now in this metric here, for example, we now can see the difference between tickets in our environment based on their different ticket types. Just want to highlight that. Of course, you could expand on that. You can do a lot once you get that data into your reporting system. You could use ticket types to get a better idea of different types of tickets in your environment. I'm going to kick back to the lab. Bear with me one moment. Okay. We're taking a look at ticket types. Now let's head over to categories. And again, categories being kind of that high level classification of tickets, something that maybe would make sense that we could classify any of our ticket types with some of these categories. I've expanded a couple of these here. Networking, see I've added firewall, VLAN, wired, wireless, and then I did some for hardware, which is going to lead into an example here in a minute. But just know that I added these subtypes here. And I guess if we stop to think about it, for instance, say incident or service request, both of which could have a classification or a category as maybe wireless. Maybe someone's having a problem with the wireless network, and that's an incident, or they're requesting a new Ethernet jack in their office, and that would be wired. So that's where we can reuse these categories for the different ticket types and saving us time building out each of these within a work item type. Instead, we can just use category broadly to filter down to the results we need. So if you remember in previous sessions, we talked about the adaptive card enhancements that we've recently released with Tikit. And that'd be nice. We could walk through an example here using hardware. I have a hardware request template. Let's see here. The only thing I'm doing in the template specifically, I'm just setting, this is a hardware request, so I'm setting it as this hardware request type standard in this case. And then more importantly is that custom form, very basic form, just to give you an idea. Of course, there's probably a lot more here you'd be asking from the customer if they're doing a hardware request form. Wanted to highlight the data sources ability once again. In the context of a hardware request form, if we want to give the user the ability to set the ticket properly directly in the form, which is now a possibility with the recent release of the adaptive card enhancements. We do have the ability to add category directly to the form, but it might not make sense to give them all of those category options whenever they're submitting a hardware request form. So if you're building this out from scratch, you're going to use category, for example. We'd want to set up a data source that would filter that list based on what's appropriate for the form. So to do that, I've already created one for hardware. We can take a look and see that we're not selecting all these because they don't really apply in this context. But all the hardware types do, except maybe this one. We know it's hardware, so we maybe not give them the parent classification hardware, just all of the different hardware types within that data source, within that selection. We'll save that, and we should be good to go. If it's not already there, you can just pull that over and put your label on, and then already have one here. We can just hook it up to that data source we just created. That is hardware, and that should be all you need there. And to see that in action, we're going to chat with the Tikit virtual agent bot. Let's say we want a handware, a hardware request. We should get that form back. We did, and we're just asking for justification. Need a new printer, for instance. And as you can see, the results are filtered just based on hardware category or subcategories. So in this case, we wanted a printer. Submit that. It's going to generate a ticket, and we'll come back to that in a minute. Any questions so far? Hopefully I'm not going too fast and this is making sense. Nope. No worries. Let's next head to tags. So I was trying to think of maybe kind of a useful scenario, something we could do with tags. And I was thinking of this concept of what happens when a VIP submits a ticket. Maybe we could do something with tags and trigger some other things to happen to get some more eyes and visibility on a certain ticket if it's flagged as VIP. So we look at tags. I don't have many. In fact, I only have the one VIP tag set up for now. The idea is maybe someone submits a ticket. Doesn't matter the ticket type. If it's identified as coming from an important person, a very important person, then an agent could say, apply this tag and then do some things to that ticket. So two things going on here. So we have the tag VIP, and using the ticket automations, I've created an automation called tagged VIP, and we'll just quickly go through that. Saying it's going to set high priority and add some collaborators. When a ticket is added or modified, and the tag is equal to VIP, so ticket's modified. When a tag is placed on the ticket, it should trigger. We're putting one constraint on here that's just saying if the priority is not high, then this will trigger, because we don't want it to trigger after every modification to the ticket, just once. So this should at least do it for now. That's going to trigger, and then this automation is going to, one, set the priority to high, which makes sense, but maybe we want to involve some managers, and we can just pretend that Diego and Lee here our managers, and maybe they would like to be aware of and included in these high priority tickets submitted maybe by VIP. So that's the idea here. When this triggers, it's going to set those properties, add the collaborators. And then we're doing one other thing similar to this, but in Power Automate. I also thought it'd be nice to change the title a little bit so that, at a glance, we can see that maybe this is an important ticket. So to do that, we're going to use Power Automate, and this just says the ticket is updated with a priority high. So whenever the ticket automation runs, it's going to update the ticket, and that's going to trigger Power Automate. And then we're going to grab that ticket, the one that was updated, and just using a simple condition, I'm going to say the title does not start with this 3 exclamation points VIP. We want to do something. And so if that evaluates as false, meaning we want it to add that title, we can come to update a ticket, and we can use the existing request title in the request field, and we can just add in this text here. Just an example. We could do anything you wanted here, but hopefully that makes sense. We would just change the title slightly so that it's obvious this is a VIP ticket. So at this point, I think we can demonstrate that. So back to tickets, we should be able to find that ticket we just created, which was, I'll use one of my custom views, service request, hardware request. I believe that was it. Yep, for printer. Okay, so just pretending I'm an agent. If I see, hey, this requester, that's an important person, I'm going to go ahead and flag that as VIP, or I'm going to tag it as VIP. I'll do that. Add VIP to the tags, save, and we'll see what happens. Now, you can already see in the activity, our ticket automation has added Diego and Lee as collaborators, and it's set the priority to high. And maybe if I refresh, we'll see if the Power Automate flow has done its job, which it has. So you can see there, it added that to the request title. So put 3 exclamation marks VIP in front. And we should be able to see that as well. If we go to the main ticket view, yep, there it is. So maybe one example, one way of using a tag to do something useful. Hopefully it might bring value or help automate a process, save everyone some time, and probably sit down and think of 1,000 different ways to do something like this. But hopefully that sparks some ideas of how you might use tickets in kind of a neat, useful way. Cool. Got a few minutes left. That was the demonstration. Hopefully that helped. If anyone has any questions, feel free to ask. Okay. Hearing none, I think that would conclude today's session. So thanks everyone for joining us. Hopefully that helped in some way. If you have any other questions or input maybe for a future topic, something you want to see us cover, feel free to let us know. I put the links in the chat, so feel free to contact us and let us know. And until next time, everyone, enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.